Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another trip to Anime Girl Town and to possibly one of the most personally important boss fights in this whole series. We're finally getting to Patchouli, the boss that finally told me where this series eventually came from and revealed that this was all a crossover event with many of the characters from the Touhou Bullet Hell series, because when I first saw Patchouli, I was reminded that I knew that name before, but I don't remember where it was from, so I actually googled it because I assumed that this is from an anime that I never heard of, but it turned out to just be a bunch of niche games that was just below my attention at the time. Patchouli apparently is the scholar of the girls. And yes, this was finally the boss fight where I actually started integrating the time stop into my regular strategy instead of just using it as a way to get cheap hits. So I finally learned how the game works, third boss in. I feel so satisfied with myself, and as you can see, this is finally starting to get to the heavy hitters of Luna Nights, and gonna show us that the game has stopped fucking around. Especially since I think the gap between the second and third boss is actually pretty long. We got through a bunch of new mechanics like the green bordered things in the world where they actually move when time is stopped, being an opposite to everything else in the game and turning combat and platforming on its head. So that's a good addition. Even though I wasn't gonna be too fooled by these leaves that are just in the middle of nowhere because they're completely freaking useless. There are just not enough projectiles for me to really care about them. Yeah, so Patchouli is actually quite the magician. I think if she's not one of the smartest, she's one of the oldest characters in this continuity. And she seems to know what's going on finally, and may be the time for Sakuya to get an answer, but for whatever reason, we have to defeat her in armed conflict for her to actually start giving us some recollection as to what's going on. And that's why I say that even though it's cute that they brought that mechanic into this boss fight, it doesn't really do anything is kind of the problem. For as varied as Patchouli's attacks are, they're actually pretty easy to dodge overall until she starts getting her ultimate attack, which makes things slightly worse. Which inevitably does make Patchouli one of my more favored boss fights, just kind of not one of the memorable ones, you know? If I'm not getting my ass handed to me by you, then, you know, what am I actually going to remember after I'm finished? And as you can see from the time stop ticker, you really got to keep your eyeballs and your strategy locked on point, because you do not get a lot of time to be in time stop. You probably get like a max of 10 seconds before you're just ceremoniously kicked out of it because you're waiting too long and just being a little scaredy cat. So that's why time stop is actually a really good new combat mechanic to this game. It varies it up quite a bit. And does she really just summon 4 spell books? I thought she actually got an ultimate attack, not just more of the other shit that she had. Oh yeah, and I also at this point acquired my my time stop platforming knives, which are really good. Not so much in boss fights, but just in general platforming, obviously. The unfortunate side effect of time stop is that you cannot move through water, which is why I guess her spell books turn into faucets at this point, because why else would that happen? And unfortunately for my stupid brain, I also didn't realize the usefulness of Thousand Daggers, which at the end of the game is really going to be the MVP of the combat system. The real thing that actually protected me when I needed it the most, and actually got me through not only the final battle, but the extra battle as well. Because this isn't a Square Enix game, I actually went through and did the extra boss battle because they actually designed it to be possible, and I just completely pointlessly used Thousand Daggers instead of what I'm actually supposed to do with it. One of the best things about Thousand Daggers is that it actually puts you in an invincible state, which if I was smarter, I would have, holy shit, I'm almost dead. I'm amazed I'm alive right now. Jesus Christ. So yeah, Patchouli was fun, and if she was more in the game, I probably would have appreciated her even more, because she is such a knowledgeable character. She seems to have very interesting things to say, but this is the only time we meet Patchouli. And she also seems to be one of the only characters that seems to want to actually, in some way, help Sakuya on her mission to find Remelia and figure out what the heck is going on in Luna Nights and why she was brought here originally. You know, what the heck's going on with this? Well, that was a good platforming on my part. And, you know, for an anime game of this sort, I am really glad that the characters are more like characters and not just, you know, just there to be cute or to be sexy and, you know, just to exploit the anime thing. It seems like they just made an anime story to fill the story that they were going for, rather than, you know, just trying to use it for cheap marketing points, which at least I appreciate, because, you know, well-rounded characters are more often than not going to play a lot better than just your boring planks of wood type. And I guess that's how I frickin' pulled out this clenching victory, this frickin' teeth grinder here, is 1,000 Daggers. Which, if I was again paying attention, would have been nice to realize how incredibly useful it actually is. And for whatever reason, I guess just because they're all battle witches that do the bullet hell thing, they think that combat is just playing around. Probably a typical anime trope thing. But I don't know how prevalent it is in other shows, because I don't really watch the animes too much anymore. Again, she gives us exactly what we're looking for. All we had to do was prove ourselves against Patchouli. Because, I mean, you could keep her waiting. She had to go through this entire freaking castle and have to fight, like, another 2 witches beyond that just to see her in the first place. And the story hasn't really moved on, but hopefully we get whatever our answer was supposed to be in our next encounter, because we've kind of just been spinning our wheels at this point, going nowhere, but at least having some flashy boss fights, which, in the end, is all we're really looking for here.